Hello, my name is Brant Hunt, and my channel is Discerning What is True here on YouTube, also on Odyssey, and also on Facebook. I am going to be sharing the Egyptian miracle, the wisdom of the temple, part 2, chapter 4, the conclusion of this particular chapter. This is by Rene Schwaller de Lubicz. So I hope you enjoy it as we continue to get into the good parts of this particular book. Actually, it's no good part. Not good parts, is no bad parts, let's just say. Excellent book. Learning a lot from it, that is. Thank you for being here. This is a section 3 called Function, Number, and Neter. Function is the term used to denote the nature of an activity. Function comprises an impulse, a goal, and a mode. The impulse is indeterminate and therefore invariant. It is the same for all occurrences, for the fiat lux as well as for mechanical impulse or for any imperative command whatsoever. The goal of the function is variable on the ground of the activity mode. It is the mode that is complex. It comprises a intensity, a manilio, and a rhyme, or a rhythm, I should say, a metaphysical principle. The millennial is inundated, in a material that is unique. The mode is here, given through intensity and its variations, which create rhythm. Function then is essentially a impulse of rhythmically variable intensity. Variation is number, where the intensity invariably. There would be but one single phenomenon, and the cosmos would be at one with its impulsive cause. Thus, it is number that makes nature. The weaknesses of this process of reasoning resides in the impossibility of giving the impulse a name. We understand it only as a mechanism. It is always tied to movement, to a displacement, or a drop in potential. This means something going to a place where this something or something similar is not. The static fall refers to the gravitational characteristics of the millennial, to the density. It may be a fall towards a solid level below or a fall towards a fluid gaseous level above. Essentially and philosophically, the mechanical impulse, like all impulses, is given by negation in opposition to affirmation, being and not being, mystery of the original schism. By mystery, it means all that includes comprehensivism. However, we ascertain the fact and the function without being able to name this impulse. We could call it God or non-polarized energy. Whatever the term, it is reality par excellence. We are forced to conclude there is one and only one original impulse, and number reveals to us the modes through the varieties that constitute nature. Number then is the essential as well as the ultimate word explicating the universe. It is a matter, not a calculation, but rather of a esotericism of number. The notion of space, for instance, is characterized by extension, and volume is characterized by the limits of extension. Limitless extension can be experienced by an aspect of our consciousness, but it cannot be comprehended through the cerebral cortex. This word to comprehend or to understand, comprehend in French, verstalia in Germany, implies a limitation, a stoppage, or a rested state. To comprehend extensions, therefore, the principle of limitations must intervene. This principle, neither, that is netter, is independent of our will or our decision. It is immanent in the principle of extension. It is a contractual function and is immanent in all that is in existence. Being thus plays the part of the substance, carrying its stimulus within itself. We are always brought back to one and the same origin. The principle or netter, I should say, of extension is abstraction, and the netter of limitation characterizes our comprehension, concretism. while extension is infinite. Limit is relative. The limit is limited. It fits into the category of quality. I should say quantity. It is because the limit is not infinite that the laws which our science defines are relative and imaginary. And it is also the reason why science in the general opposes gnosis. Every object of science, everything concrete, ceases to exist within its definition as soon as the limit of its limiting qualifications is reached. The qualifying function is limitation and achieves duration within form, but has no temporal persistence as function, because stipend action, which concretizes and limits. It is immanent in that which is and therefore is continuous. As a result of this consideration, we can say that in order for a volume to exist, an action limiting extension is needed. Within concrete objects, it is a ferment, a seed in principle. It will be a fire. We can use nature as symbol for the consciousness of this original fact. Concretization in a homogeneous millennial, homogeneity necessarily being the state of the primordial millennial, finds its image in a congelation, I should say, similar to the congelation of a female aminoid substance. Egg white is example. It coagulates as a result of either heat or the fire of the spermated ferment. In Egypt, the alcoholate millennial, which springs this coagulating substance of mystery character, is represented by Ammon, the great netter, whom the king perfected being, addresses as his father. Were it simple to express what we have just been considering, this symbol represented by Ammon would have no raison d'etre. But it does, in fact, concern the anthropomorphization of a primordial activity with universal ramifications. Of the latter, all esoteric meaning, including their keys, are inscribed in a variety of ways into the figure, which makes them available to the understanding reader. By no means can any explication of those secrets be as precise and as complete as it is in this symbolization. The limit of possibilities cannot be given by the passive millennial, but only by the intensity of the activity. This activity expresses itself primitively by a number, meaning that a number is its result and hence defines it. The first volume must necessarily be spherical. It is no more and no less than extension without orientation, but with a radial measure. It is contraction or first limitation by a central stipend fire or coagulate. Primordial activity, source of every function, is centripetal. It is the placenta in character, space in nurturing, ammonitian millennial. By analogy, is in pharaonic Egypt is called Nun, and figure as the cosmic ocean, the hermetic Hyle, Hyle. In order for the undefined volume of the sphere to become form, at least three directions must be defined: the polar axis and the four directions of the equatorial cross. This is the reason for all celestial mechanics, governed by numbers, establishing a splendid system which is in its key. The long development and special character of this discipline are beyond the scope of our text. Esoterically, from the exterior, so to speak, and hence objectively, we see the world from the wrong side. We see the rotation of the starry spheres and their centrifugal force appears active to us, moving against the centripetal force, which seems to play a passive role. Seen from a vital interior point of view, it is precisely the opposite that is true. Nurturing space flows towards the center, not like a fluid towards a solid, but like the spiral currents of a immaterial spiral. At a certain density, defined by the central coagulating activity, the sphere will appear solid. These falling spirals occur according to the function of the golden section, so they can be demonstrated by construction on a rectangle. 1 equals the golden section, like the helix of a small snail's shell. This determines that's to give you a key there, like the helix of a snail shell. That's what it's saying. It's a certain rotation. This determines two equatorial axes around a central point that forms the polar axis. This ternary axis system, destined to exist the moment coagulating action makes itself known, is the idea of the form in general, the idea of numerical play, that is, humus, that presides over the form or concrete appearance. This is highly simplified description of the first idea of form, the first limitation, and it is caused by the contractions of the cyclic force. It would have to cease along with this action. Esoterically, though, no exaltation can occur as it is a original causal potency that nothing can annul unless it be the very effect which is engendering. It is a universal law that the natural vital causes finds the end of activity through the excess of its effect. The fire that has generated and illuminated will cease to generate and emanate when what stems from it will have been burned by it, and what stems from fire must become fire and nothing but fire. Ashes and the salt of ashes being a fire, we call causality. Speaking quantitatively, we can say a cause reduces to itself all its causes. So I'm going to show you a particular figure here. This is figure 36. This is Amon, the creative word, the Tenaria unity, the unknowable Amon. This applies equally well to the seed, whose activity ceases once it has produced new seed of its own nature. A kernel of grain, wheat or barley, for example, when left to itself in conditions of dryness that prevent germination as well as decay, burns itself. This is proved by the grain found in pharaonic tombs. Mechanical limited motility, such as a body that has received a limited impulse, will make it a way of exhausting this impulse. Actually, it will reduce the impulse to its source, which is energy. Accordingly to the ancient axiom, in the end, everything resolves itself into that of which it is made. The resistance that creates the obstacle to the impulse exercise is measurable. Here, number is brought back to the notion of measure, a quantitative definition. This deviates number from an esoteric character residing in a function that reveals rather than in a measure to which it might lend precision or count. The functional character of numbers is not relative or accidental. It is cosmic. It is the conscious revelation of our inborn knowledge. There is no better way to describe the absolute than when the number one considered as indivisible, seeing that one is multiplying, reveals itself through the number two. There is an error to be avoided here in contemplating the esoteric sense of number. Two is not one plus one. It is not a composite. It is the power of multiplication. It is the consciousness of multiplication. It is the multiplying opus. It is the notion of more in relation to less. It is a new unity. It is sexuality. It is the origin of nature, physics, the nature too. Its culmination as in the separative moment of the full moon. For instance, it is line, the staff, movement, the path, the Wotan, the Odin, the Neter, thought, Mercury, and spirit. The philosophy of number is based on the functional character of number. The latter defines the firmament. Sorry. The latter defines the functional possibilities whose application creates our conceptual notions. It is not a case of attributing the notion of division to the number 2. It is the number 2 that implies the dualizing functions from which our notion of division derives. Counting is not exclusively a human faculty. It is the first inborn form of consciousness, choice by affinity in the chemical molecule as well as its valence already shows a inborn consciousness of number. Original schism or polarization of energy is the beginning of number and a first numbering. For the human being, this becomes a priority knowledge asserting itself to the psychological consciousness. The latter then classifies and names what has been imposed upon it by number. This is the sense in which the Pythagorean affirmation must be understood. All in the universe is number. They are wrong. Those rationalistic minds who reprove the Pythagoreans for the mystical character that they attributed, as if to occult powers, to numbers, they are wrong to impute to those Gnostics a disposition for mysticalism of a parial sort. Number as a very first manifestation of consciousness is what specifies and characterizes everything. If man then comes along and with the psychological consciousness, the mental consciousness of inborn consciousness, names and numbers rationally and thus reduces number to a quantitative values. This is consequence that itself derives from number, a organic consciousness facing a inborn consciousness, two forms of consciousness, schism and opposition. And that is the conclusion of chapter 4 here. And I'm going to stop here at this point. So I think there are a few more chapters here left in the book. And then there will be, we may go into the chapter 8, I think it is. Chapter 9 will be the last chapter, I think, here. Yeah, chapter 9 will be the last chapter. So, okay, we'll do that probably tomorrow, sharing some more information to you. Thank you for being here. Again, hope that you can grasp what I'm talking about here. This is all new to me. I'm learning things from Rene Schwaller, which is Rene Schwaller de Lubicz. His wife also wrote many books also. She was just as accomplished as he was. So wish you good night, and you have a good day, and thank you. Take care.